Hey guys, so in this video I want to talk about a really important topic when it comes to powerlifting programming. This really is how do we program, accessories along with, session priorities, say it's our primary day, our secondary day, our tertiary day, etc. How do we organize our accessories in a way that is going to maximize our ability to adapt and recover and build the most muscle? Because really the reality is that accessories in your powerlifting program should actually play just as much of a role as your compound lifts do, and they probably do, because essentially beyond like a skill practice standpoint and getting in heavy top sets to drive neurological stimulus on our squat bench and deadlift, um, you know most time people aren't going to get in as much volume as they need to drive progress because there's other things that we need to do, such as build muscle, build work capacity in order to drive strength. And reality, especially if you're natural, you can't really back off of the hypertrophy work, at least for very long, um, or else you're going to just start to lose some muscle size. And this is where programming and accessories becomes crucial. And so basically, I wanted to go over how I think about programming accessories in a way that's going to enhance strength gains and still allow you to build muscle without interfering with you feeling strongest on the days that are supposed to, which is going to be your primary day. Because again, the number one goal is to get stronger. In bodybuilding, this doesn't really matter. Like it's just like doesn't like it technically does, but how I prefer to like periodized accessories, I guess, is bodybuilding periodization is like across the training week, and essentially like long-term periodization doesn't matter, as a strength it does. So typically, like with like hypertrophy, that doesn't really matter because it's just like it's so sense it's like doesn't really matter that much how fatigue you are. Like you still need to get stronger, but everybody's had that experience where like if you're doing like sets of 10, like you don't need to be that recovered to be able to prepare. Whereas if you're doing sets of like 1 to 3, like you better be on your A game if you're actually going to be able to get stronger in there. So that's very sensitive to fatigue dynamics. So, just to get into things, if we're talking about primary days, which is going to be, heaviest training day, typically we're going to be incurring the most volume, has their top set. We're doing a lot of specificity with our competition movements. When I am thinking about accessories, and programming in my accessories, I want to program accessories that have more of a lengthened position and accessories that can tolerate the most loading and or occur the most axial fatigue, meaning that these are going to be higher stimulus but higher fatigue exercise. The reason why I want to program in more of a lengthened position accessory is because there's more muscle damage involved with lengthened positions than there are with shortened positions. That's going to take a longer time to recover from. Anybody who is trained knows that if they do a heavy set of RDLs and they do like a big, deep stretch, slight pause at the bottom, really strict technique, like your hamstrings are going to be sore for a long ass time, as opposed to like doing like a leg curl. Yeah, you might be a little bit stiff like the day after, but typically you're going to be, rather good to go. That's because of where most of the damage is happening, and basically if you're having more of a stretch and lots of peak tension is on that stretch position, that's what's going to cause the most fatigue. We're going to take a little bit longer time to recover from. Probably want to put that with the day that's going to have the most fatigue anyways, and further away from like, our secondary day, tertiary days, etc. Um, this is also going to be accessories that target the most loading because you're going to have a higher stimulus, but also higher fatigue. So more compound lift accessories. And then anything has an axial fatigue component to it, so like a barbell row, a hack squat, something like that. You probably want to put a little bit more with your primary day. So I put right here like some bench accessory examples on primary days: incline double press, machine chest press, dumbbell skull crushers, deadlift, RDL barbell rows, squat, leg press, hack squat, lunges, stuff like that. And then on secondary days and tertiary days, whatever you're doing beyond that, you typically want to have more of accessories are going to be in a shortened position, and that are more minimal loading. Basically, they would call them maybe they have like a higher stimulus but lower like fatigue rate ratio. But like we're talking about you know higher stimulus, higher fatigue. Basically, like how much stimulus you're getting per unit fatigue. And typically primary days are also probably should have the most overall like accessory volume. So that's sort of like, say you're doing like 8 sets in your primary day, and then you're doing like, say 6 sets in the secondary day or something like that, which should be probably a rather smart move. Because I typically put about 10 to 15 sets weekly average volume for most of my athletes because strength operates a little better in a lower fatigue state. That's typically seems best to like also optimize strength without sacrificing muscle. You're essentially going to be able to get the most out of that, and by layering in a little bit more isolation movements for those muscle groups if you find that you do need more volume to drive progress on your secondary day, tertiary days. So I didn't do this, but actually right now, for like a bench accessory, let's say like tricep push down. Let's say you have like a chest fly. Although there's a stretch, it's like mostly going to be peak contraction in that shortened position, and then let's just say like a push up, a deficit push up, because that's a little bit lower like actual loading. So like deadlift, I would say like leg curls, flat pull downs, more muscular back is probably going to mean a bigger deadlift in general. Squat, let's say, leg extensions, sissy squat, goblet squat. So essentially, that's what I'm sort of how I program in things. And I want to give an example with my client Austin. So if you look at his squat programming, you see on his primary day he has the most volume. He does about 7 sets, and we do a lot of belt squat after his comp squat. This is secondary day. We are going to incorporate some hack squats that is a part of. I'm basically incorporating that as part of the actual the volume on the competition lift, is that is a part that drives his movement. But as more accessory lift on that day is going to be a leg extension or a shortened position. And you'll see that he really only does like a T-bar row after his deadlift, mostly just deadlifting. Deadlift seems to be a little bit easier to program for this, as long as like your back programming is like in some smarter way. Like you mostly need to be mostly concerned about hamstring and glute fatigue and recovering from that. Whereas like with bench press, you will see this is his primary day. We're going to put in. Now I do the Smith machine JM press on this day, but that's sort of like a more of a compound lift that does drive his progress. But you see a tricep push down, and then tricep push down on this day as well, high incline. Then bench press can be a little bit different because it's typically the upper body movements tend to be a little bit more forgiving. This is really me just saying in generalities what you want to do though, and you have to optimize things based off what the athlete needs to drive progress, what they can recover well from, and still understand accessories in a powerlifting program should fill in the gaps that you can't get with your compound lifts. And that's sort of what I'm thinking of on these days. Like, Austin needs stronger triceps, and he can't tolerate a ton of close grip bench press volume. And so this is a lower loading exercise that can still get me a lot of loading on his muscles. So that's just sort of like, how I program in accessories, how you can do it and organize them in generalities in a way that's going to probably optimize your stimulus to fatigue ratio. So your ability to recover, because again, we want to be strongest on our primary days, and you want to make sure that we're be able to come around that. In general, more volume, a little bit more accessories driven on the primary day, a little bit less volume on the secondary days, a little bit less actual loading, but overall, whatever. Again, use your accessories to fill in the volume of your SPD that you can't get. So hopefully this was helpful. If you guys have any questions, ask down below, and talk to you guys in the next one.